What's up, everybody, and welcome to ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news. I'm Drew Bosley, and that's the one, the only. It is Scott Savage. Scott, what's going on, buddy?
I keep thinking of Escape Academy. That's the game I'm on this week, and I'm stuck in one spot.
Bouncing around. Scott's just bouncing around some more. Dude, it's good. It's cool. I heard it was good. I just haven't been able to get to it. Dude, I'm wrapped up in baseball right now. Baseball and Anno 1800. Yo, am I in? Yeah,
that's an exciting one. I like that.
I'm having a ton of fun, but you should be having a ton of fun with us each and every day, Monday to Friday at noon Eastern, over on Twitch and YouTube at the official ITG. But if you can't join us live, hit us up later inside the game.ca podcast services and TV streaming networks around the globe. Scott, today's show, it's official. E3 is dead, my friend. This is an end of an era, as E3 has been canceled. We will get into that discussion and what's going on there. PSVR 2 launch sales aren't doing so well. No kidding. And CD Projekt Red tells us why they restarted the Witcher Project Sirius. Cool. This is probably for the better. They think they're restarting for a reason, Scott. But
yeah, the
big topic of the day, this could take the majority of the show right here, Scott. Let's get into it. E3 is dead. This is Marcus Stewart over at Game Informer. E3 2023 has been canceled. IGN reports the news comes after major publishers pulled out of the event in recent weeks. We've been covering this for a while now, Scott. Dude, nobody's there, right? Like, that's the biggest thing. So IGN reported on Tuesday that major publishers had either declined to attend or had little to no idea if the event would even take place due to a lack of communication with organizer ReedPop and the ESA. Today, IGN received the emails sent within the ESA explaining that the show, quote, simply did not garner the sustained interest necessary to execute it in a way that would showcase the size, strength, and impact of our industry, end quote. That is the biggest PR line I have heard in a while, Scott.
Yeah.
Like,
it really is,
dude. That's
not garner enough interest. Well, it's one way of putting it, I suppose.
That's because the Keeleys have came and taken the wind out of the sails of E3. Scott, I don't know if you caught my tweet this morning, but I posted that I got an email saying Video Game Summer isn't canceled because the Summer Games Fest is still on. That's so there's Jeff Keighley already kicking E3 while they're down and saying, you're done, here I am, and I'm taking over. Dude, at one point, right, this is kind of how it went, is that Jeff Keighley was there with E3. They're working together to grow this vision of what E3 was going to become after Sony left, right? PlayStation's not there. They haven't been there for a while. Xbox now is jump ship too. At this point now, because it's canceled, like, dude, there wasn't anybody going. I was really curious to see who was going to show up to the event with all, like, the top dogs out. So who's left?
Who would kind of make it their event.
Exactly. But you don't have to worry about it because now it's the Keeleys, and just let Jeff Keighley, just go talk to him and get involved with Jeff, because E3 is officially dead, dude. I honestly think it is. We've been covering this for so long, wondering at what point is this just going to fade off into the distance and let it go. This seems to be the way, right? So Jeff was working with E3 and ESA to kind of, build this vision. And Jeff went out and said, I'm doing my own thing because I don't like where they're going. And this is what's happened, right? So now we see the rise of Jeff Keighley and what he's building upon. That's what I said, dude, so yesterday we found out, this is Thursday, we found out that they were not getting, that E3 was canceled, that we were not getting an E3. And then the very next day, I get an email blast saying, hey, don't worry, we got you covered. Well, Summer Games Fest is here. We still got the summer of games coming your way. And
now there's much more space for Key 3, and this is going to be the face of E3 moving forward. It's no longer E3, and I don't suspect it will return, even in name.
No. Do you think we'll ever see E3 again?
I don't think so. I think it'll take on a different name, a different persona from here on forward. I think E3 is the founder, the beginning of it all.
Yep.
But I think Key 3 will move us on to the next one and keep us going for at least another decade, I would suspect. I think this is the 4th now annual Game Awards. Or Summer Game Fest, sorry. Summer Game Fest, what I meant to say.
Sounds about right. Yep, June 8th, on my wife's birthday. Happy birthday, honey.
Oh.
I'm working. Yeah, it's the way it goes. It's one of those things, right? We've seen Jeff kind of creep up and just start to rise, and he's rising. And now it's really gotten to the point where he's overthrown E3. And we've stated for a long time that the price of E3 apparently was absolutely through the roof for publishers, and that's why they started pulling it in the first place. So PlayStation was one of the big ones to like go first. And then from there, dude, it just kind of almost felt like dominoes, right?
Yeah.
And they all just toppled out. And it was just like, we don't have to do this. And then the pandemic hit, and that really changed the landscape of how everybody was showcasing their content. State of Plays, Xbox Showcase, Ubisoft Forward we're getting. It's funny that we're still kind of sticking around this time frame of when we're going to see stuff from Xbox, when we're going to see stuff from Ubisoft. We still don't know if we're going to see anything from PlayStation. At this point, PlayStation just turned into Nintendo and gone the Nintendo Direct way, right?
Yeah.
We'll just show you something when we have something. And then that's what you're going to get. There is no kind of build to how we used to get with E3. Dude, I'll never forget it. I was sitting at home watching the reveal of The Last of Us Part 2. And it was such a big change that year for E3 as well, especially for PlayStation, because they literally put people in like this whole room setup that was just like The Last of Us, right? They're all in the community center kind of thing, and they're just kind of, what is going on here? And then they picked them up and then moved them to a whole other area. And I remember hearing a lot of people going, this is weird. So
they used to do a lot of really fun stuff back in the day for E3.
Oh man, I remember hearing about Turtle Rock's big Goliath statue from Evolve being there, right? Like, dude, yeah. E3 was a spectacle. It was the showcase event of the year. Everybody tuned in. Everybody was there. Everybody wanted to go who wasn't there, myself included, right? I always wanted to go to E3. That's never going to happen, dude. Never going to happen, right? It's kind of one of those things like, that hurts. And I've seen a lot of people starting to post about, hey, what's up, Mike? What about Activision Blizzard? Well, now, it really depends on where they're at, too, I think, at this point, right? When do we see, if Microsoft overtakes, finally, we ever get confirmation of Microsoft owning Activision, I think you get the Xbox Bethesda Activision showcase, right? I think you get all three players in there at once, and that's their showcase for like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, just because all of a sudden now they've added in. Each and every year we get like a Call of Duty event, right? There's that to play with too. There's a whole other side to what they're kind of bringing to the table, providing that they can get in here with Activision Blizzard. Or Activision just kind of goes and does their own thing. But everybody's pulled out of E3, doesn't want to be there. Now it's, here's your time to shine for Jeff, and he's been doing it so well that he gets in with Activision. He can showcase the next Call of Duty teaser, right? He gets in there and showcase whatever we'll get for Fable, if that ever comes around from Playground Games with Xbox. We'll get we'll
see, but
like last year at the Summer Games Fest, we got a tease from Neil Druckmann about The Last of Us multiplayer. So, dude, you didn't get any of that from E3 over the last few years, right? Even that, mind you, E3 hasn't been around the last few years either, just because of the pandemic and the way the whole world's been situated. But it's, at the same time, dude, this is it. E3 is over. I don't think they can come back from this.
No, I don't think so. And even if something props up, uses the name E3, I think that's really just play to nostalgia. Kind of hurts.
Do you think it's just soured taste in your mouth then if somebody just comes back and says, here's E3? We're like, no, it's not. Like, that's no.
Yeah.
Right?
It's just not what it was supposed to be. And although I was never there, I've never been there. So who am I to say what it should be? But I'm just upset that I'll never actually go there. Although I would be, I think, equally as excited to get in for actual Summer Game Fest. I would be just as excited, I think.
No, absolutely. I think now we just transition from E3 and go to the Summer Game Fest, right? We'll just tune in that. We'll show up and hopefully be able to kind of watch how that unfolds. But then that's where everybody gets their booth set up, right? So all of a sudden now you're bouncing around to Jeff's vision of what Summer Game Fest turns out to be, instead of going around whatever E3 had envisioned, which was massive at one point, but it's downscaled over the years. And then they tried to figure out how can we implement the public so we can make more money. Right. So then all of a sudden now they open up that floodgate, because at one point it was just a media event. and then they opened it up. Like, there's just so many different playing fields of what was going on with E3. To be a fly in the wall with ReedPop and ESA to see what happened, what went down. Dude, the minute we already knew PlayStation was going to be there. We knew Xbox wasn't going to be there. They're going to be in the area. Nintendo, not going to be there. Okay, so who's that left? Ubisoft. Ubisoft goes, yeah, we'll be there. And then was it last week we covered? No, they're not. They
1 week later, if that,
they pulled out. Then Sega and Tencent said they're not going to be there either. It's like Konami's not going to be there. There is nobody. And then all of a sudden,
Embracer Group.
What's that?
Embracer Group.
Well, yeah. Well, again, right? Embracer Group has so many things that they could just have their own showcase. It's just unfortunate to see, man. It's a bit of a heartbreaker, right? Because I wanted to see what they could do with this. If they would flip it into like just an indie showcase, maybe that's where they should have taken this and not try to go for the big fences and downscale and say, hey, we're gonna play off of what Jeff is building and then try to restructure, but start at the bottom and work their way back up because they've been taken out at the knees at this point, right? So just too bad to see that. That's kind of where it's gone. But dude, we have some other disappointing news.
Yeah, a bit of a bummer, this one.
Sony PSVR 2 headset off to a slow start as metaverse push sputters. It's over at Bloomberg. Sony Group Corp is projected to sell fewer than 300,000 PSVR 2 headsets in its first weeks on the market. A slow start for the company efforts to take a leading role in development of the metaverse. I don't think they're really gearing towards the metaverse, but we'll get into that in a second. The Tokyo-based console maker is likely to sell about 270,000 units of the PSVR 2 between February 22 release and the end of March, according to the estimates from the research firm IDC. Sony had a lofty goal of making about 2 million units for the PSVR 2's launch window, Bloomberg's news reported last year. Scott,
that's a lot of warehouses full.
Yeah,
and they don't seem to be moving very well.
Yeah, Mike's got a good point. Who can afford one? If you own a PS5, right, and then you step into the world of PSVR 2 to buy that, you're in there for an investment. Here's the problem. Dude, as many games as they currently have to play for PSVR 2, you look on the horizon to see, oh, no pun intended, really. But
you were looking at Horizon.
Dude, I was getting to it, right? I can feel it coming. It's one of those, that is my go-to game for PSVR 2. But when you get out of that, like what's left, right? You've got the 30, 40 games at launch. That's great. But we don't see the future. Really, they had a state of play not too long ago and showed off 5 games. I don't think there was one of them that really kind of blew me away. And you kind of wonder, is this going to be a PS Vita situation, right? Is it going to rely on third parties? Is it going to rely on indies to keep this thing alive? Or is Sony actually going to invest in it? Because they did not invest in marketing whatsoever. They just kind of put it out there.
That's the first sign of trouble for me, was the absolute no marketing. And we've remarked on that several times. It was crazy. What are we even getting here with this package? And then we did at least get that direct, that state of play that showed off Before Your Eyes. That was the one that stood out to me. Yeah. Because it was creative. There was something inventive there. But is it only the indies that are going to be able to create something inventive? Can we truly not rely on Sony to come out with some heavy hitter? But I feel like we would have seen that already. We would have known that's coming. Well, even if it were 2024.
Yeah. So we did get Horizon Call of the Mountain, right? But you don't play as Aloy. You play as Reyes Akarja, broken free from prison to go on a fetch quest. Long story. Well, it is what it isn't. But either way, I'm not going to get into it.
You have to get the MacGuffin.
It's one of those things, right? So for the Call of the Mountain, I had a good time. I really did, right? The bow and arrow mechanic felt great. To experience the machines, dude, at eye level and look up at some of these things, like the tall neck going over top of you, was one of the most incredible experiences I've had in VR. And I played a lot of VR games. Dude, that was great. But it still didn't come out and kind of, like, I had more fun probably playing Horizon Forbidden West than I did Call of the Mountain, right?
Yeah.
And then Burning Shores is coming. We all know, like, we're getting pumped for PS5 games, but we're not getting excited for PSVR 2 games because there is no marketing. There wasn't right from get-go, which was just baffling, which kind of puts tempered expectations of where this is going to really lie for the future, right? We say, so we know that there's 100 games in development. That's not enough. Or if it is, we're not shown enough to get excited for what's to come. I think that's the other side of it too, right? There is, I think, what is it called? Firewall, which is like their first person shooter game. The last time it was Firewall had the gun too with the move controllers. It was actually pretty cool. So we're getting certain games, but we don't know what we're getting still for the most part. But it's easier to get excited for PS5 games than it is for PSVR 2 games. If you haven't played PSVR 2 and you have the opportunity, go check it out. I definitely recommend you check it out. But a lot of these games, like What the Bat, it's a quirky little indie title. Okay, that's cool. There's some space bartending game.
Interesting.
Right?
But is it a system seller, though?
Well, okay, so here's the other side. No, it's not. No, it definitely is not, right? Yeah. Here's the other side of it, too. A lot of the games, 90% of the games, are already on other VR platforms. Right? So again, we come back, Scott, to Stadia and say there's a reason why Stadia died.
Yeah, it needed its own first-party development. That was really it.
Exactly.
PlayStation has the means of doing it. I hope they really don't fumble this one, because like the Vita, you're right, and I am seeing a parallel here. There's a huge potential.
I don't think we're far off. I think we're going to find out in the next 6 months whether or not this thing lives or dies.
Oh.
Yeah.
If they have 2 million sitting around in warehouses, I sure hope it lives.
I do.
There's a whole year's worth of semiconductors went into that.
Dude, I'm cleaning up some of our VR titles for the show. And then after that, I'm looking at it going, is this just going to collect dust?
Oh.
Like, that's where I'm at right now, going, huh. There's a couple games I'm kind of like playing around with, but at the end of it, I'm out. What's next?
Yeah.
What's coming in? Actually, I just got a code yesterday for a game. But again, that game was already on other platforms. It's just now been ported over to PSVR 2. So where is this first party support? I think that's really the telling of whether or not this is going to live or die. If it doesn't have continued support from Guerrilla, from Naughty Dog, from Insomniac, from all these first party developers over at PlayStation, I don't think this thing is going to be around in a year. And
that hurts.
Which means we won't get PSVR 3 whenever that reaches that technology leap, right? It's going to live or die by indies. And indies aren't going to keep us going if they're not going to have stuff to make there to sell, because there's no install base, right? That's the other side of it too. There has to be an install base. If you push the PS5 like they are right now, that install base is growing. It's going to continue to grow, and people can keep making games and bringing it over and sell their games to make money, keep the lights on. If you are investing into VR, you're kind of wanting to put it on every platform because Meta has theirs. HTC is another one, right? Like, there's other platforms to go to that aren't just focused on PSVR 2 that will help you keep the lights on, but it's still not enough for PSVR 2 community to stay there.
Yeah, it's an awkward zone. You need to be careful when you're a smaller company going to develop something as crazy as VR, because, like you say, if you're going to sell it to 1% of a market, it's got to be a very big market. Otherwise, It's not sustainable.
No. So definitely, man, we were worried right from the get-go, Scott, when we said we're going to get into the world of PSVR 2. We'll see how long we're here. Time is of the essence. Speaking of time, Scott, CD Projekt Red explains why the Witcher game Project Sirius has seemingly been restarted. Chris Scullion over at VGC Project, CD Projekt, has shed more light on the apparent decision to go back to the drawing board with Project Sirius, a new take on the Witcher series first announced last October. Interesting little take, Scott. In a regulatory announcement last week, the company told investors it had established an impairment allowance related to expenses incurred developing the game. It said the value of the expenses incurred totaled $33.4. I'm going to back that up. $7.6 million. and there's another one of $2.2 million in the first 2 months of 2023. Man, at these sums, quote, will accordingly burden the company's financial results, end quote. While it wasn't, right, dude, money has a huge impact on what goes on here. While it wasn't exactly clear at the time what was meant in terms of games development. Today, CFO Peter shed more light on the situation during a presentation in the company's 2022 earnings call. Quote, I'm aware that it's not great to hear from a company that the project is being reevaluated, end quote, he explained. But at the time, in order to stay innovative, we must experiment and be brave when trying new paths and to stay in control and keep the right course, especially with a project that is new to us in terms of design development by a new studio in our family. We need to keep evaluating the situation as we move along. It's better to cut costs early. Man, millions of dollars? Well, welcome to game development. And even restart if needed, than to carry on. As a result of this approach, we experimented with negative response on our operating activity linked to the impairment related to Project Sirius, which was reported 10 days ago. And now Scott has been taken back to the drawing board. Ouch.
Ouch. Yeah. Ouch is really it. Spend all this time and money on something. It is, no matter what it is, it's going to be a hardship to purge that and restart. But if any company is going to teach us the way of how to modern video game development, it's going to be CD Projekt Red.
Absolutely. Dude, almost basically $10 million, right?
Yeah. Oh, but they are the most experienced minesweeper in the industry.
It's very interesting to see that that's a lot of money spent to take a look at the game. This isn't working. I do appreciate the fact that they are upfront about it, somewhat being transparent about it, right? Letting us know, hey, we're trying new things. We want to innovate and push the next Witcher game forward. I'm all for it. But at the same time, it just didn't work out, so they got to start over. And it's just kind of the way it goes. Sometimes the idea on paper looks better than execution.
Well, it's better that way than to bring the Witcher series down a peg. You don't want to do that.
Nope, not at all, buddy.
Insanely popular IP. You cannot mess with it.
No, I think they kind of saw their stepping stones with Cyberpunk, right? And then after that, we have to be super careful now moving forward, because if they put out another title that PlayStation takes off the platform, dude, that could be the end of it, right? Like, they don't want to do that. How much investors will just bail left, right, and center. Nobody's going to want to play their games because they don't want to have a bricked console. Like, they was coming out and just bricking people's consoles. It wouldn't work. It was just horrible. So yeah, I do appreciate that they just took it back to the drawing board and say, hey, no, we can't do this. And that's just kind of how it's going to go.
And we don't have to wait years and years to find out this is what took so long. Looking at you, Ubisoft.
Ooh, dude. Man. Yeah. Skull and Bones, right? There's another one.
I appreciate the proactive announcement of this.
Dude, we have a couple games out today. Not too many, but we do have two. What are those games?
We have Cosmonious High, and that's on the Meta Quest. And Citizen Sleeper makes its way to PlayStation 4 and 5 now.
Have you played Citizen Sleeper?
No, I don't really know much about it. I've heard it's based on a tabletop.
Oh, all right, cool.
Yeah.
I haven't played that one. How about Cosmonious High?
No, I have not. I've not heard of that one, but I have kind of steered away from my VR news because it hurts me.
That's fair. Again, right? Speaking of VR games, another one that's on PlayStation VR 2, I believe, as well, or is it is coming? It's one of those things, but again, it's on another platform, right? At this point, for PSVR 2, if you're developing a game for that platform, you want to be multi-platformed, I think, in this case, until we start seeing the rise of first-party studios.
Is there cross-plat with VR? I don't believe there is.
Actually, there is. I was playing Demo is what it was, and it's a tabletop board game. Dude, I was playing with people they were on the Quest, and I was on PSVR 2. It worked awesome. It was perfect. Yeah, it was a ton of fun. So, and one person even commented and said this is their go-to game for VR. I went, really? Huh. And it's a board game, so you can go for like a long time, man, in the world of VR. Yeah, it was interesting. But Scott, just like that, we can keep going too, but the show is over, my friend. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us. This has been ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news. You can always join us live noon Eastern, Monday to Friday over on Twitch and YouTube at the official ITG. But if you can't join us live, hit us up later. InsideTheGame.ca podcast services, TV streaming networks around the globe. Until Monday, everybody, enjoy your weekend. I'm Drew. That's Scott. We'll see you inside the game. Thanks, Mike.